Heyo.
Welcome to Benchwarmers, a Woe So podcast, episode 35. 35. I haven't done my prep on my 35 player, but it's okay. You know what? 35 is going to be generational regardless. This is as good as it gets for one of our podcast hosts and as bad as it gets for the other. So we are in for an absolute perler here. I mean, I mean, just because I've had such a good week, I might as well give the start to you, Allegra. Where do you want to start today? Because I'm happy to go anywhere in the world.
I think we should get my game over and done with. It was the
All right,
first
great
game
shout.
of the second legs. It was my first heartbreak of the week. I think we should just get it over and done with,
Yeah,
and
all
then
right.
move on from there.
So that is referring to Arsenal and Lyon at the Groupama, the big game. We talked about Kangpadal punishment last week. There was a bit of Kangpadal gains and a bit of redemption for Giraldez and the crew. I feel like there was a semblance of aggression. They worked really hard to make it a fortress. They definitely have done that all season and then have been able to utilize the home ground advantage to their advantage when you guys came over and you looked slightly timid. I feel like you were a bit offbeat and off step. I don't think you came into the game. And to be fair, it was similar to the Emirates game in that way where they probably were facilitating the chances early, just lower percentage chances, but it didn't take long for them to hit your Achilles heel in a lot of ways.
I don't really know how Arsenal go into these games mentally because, as I've said before, the way that we have approached Champions League legs is usually either level on the score line or behind. So this was a complete unknown in terms of semi-finals for Arsenal, and I think that that weight really had an impact on us. I think that we went into that game. I've called it the triple C. I said it was complacent, careless, and cowardly. I think that the way that we actively were unable to defend, attack in a way that Lyon made us, like literally made us. Like they put the pressure on early. We were unable to meet that pressure. They were relentless. And this is a Lyon staple in the philosophy of Lyon. Relentlessness, exposing the weaknesses in their opposition is something that we should have been able to counter, but we just weren't. And I think the introduction of key players, I'm looking at Bacha, for example, but I'm
Oh my
also
God,
looking
what
at
a game.
Dumornay as
Yeah.
well. They are players that, to me, are the differentiating factors and that the big moments players that Arsenal were just not able to replicate. We had that later on in the game, but at the start, it was one of, if not the worst first halves that we've had against the side all season.
Yeah, we talked about last week that your fullbacks were your strengths at the
Mm,
Emirates. Svava and Ash Lawrence not good enough, and
mm,
I've rated Svava all year. I really think she is good enough in a lot of ways, but again, the biggest games, the biggest moments, we said that you had world class fullbacks on either side, and they didn't. And bringing in Bacha, even calling her a one-sided fullback is a disgrace. She was on both sides.
mm.
She was running the show. They decided, you could see Giraldez had decided that this was the player we're going to use to isolate the space and then also just lock up the tempo, right? So the thing about the Emirates game that was so impressive by René's side was that you guys were catching them tempo-wise. You were deciding when you were going to approach them, when you were going to get into their final third, and at what speed and how they were going to do it. And Bacha just said no. I'm going to have the ball and you can't press me because I'm basically I can't recall a moment where she lost the ball
Mm.
and or made a misplaced pass to the only moment where you ended up with a goal was a facilitation of press on her. So it was a double press and I had two people there for you to take down that right side and then eventually end up with the Russo goal. But let's talk about the first goal, which was being brought down in the box, Lotte Wubbenmoy bringing down Dumornay, another deciding factor in a way. I mean, we've said sung our praises about the Haitian wonder kid that is Dumornay. She just is untackleable in a lot of ways. Just two players to add to the team that can't be touched in a lot of ways. And I think it is a harsh call. Look, she doesn't get a lot of the
No,
ball.
I disagree.
I think it is
100%
it's a
disagree.
it's a very undisciplined tackle, but that being said, it is there. It is 100% there.
It's
I'm
hu-
not saying
it's
it's
more than 100% there.
yeah.
That is a stonewall penalty. And
Sure,
to be
sure,
fair, the
but
fact that the referee, who had a fantastic game and the VAR was fantastic this
mm,
game, despite the loss, I think all Arsenal fans can admit
mm,
that VAR worked its purpose in this
mm,
game. That was the culmination of pressure. That was
mm.
coming. That
Oh yeah,
Lotte
they were yeah,
Moy
100%.
movement was coming, the fact that our players in the box, I mean, later on in the game, you see it as well, just lunging at tackles, like taking
Mm,
these players out. Like, this is so uncharacteristic of an Arsenal team that in high pressure moments in the past in the Champions League have been able to hold themselves to a stead that is at least somewhat stoic. Like, if we're not going to attack, then at
mm,
least like hold your ground.
mm.
And this
Yeah.
was just the inexperience of Lotte Wubbenmoy at the highest moment against a Dumornay who was beating that what was it, right hand side for majority of the match.
But it was actually, I mean, it was
The
ultimately that
left hand side,
inverted
left hand.
switch. Yeah. So it
Yeah.
was that inverted switch where Dumornay was attacking the right side for a while, and then she decided it wasn't worth going down
Mm.
the left side and brought Lotte with her, and then obviously got on the outside of Lotte, and then that tackle. I mean, look, it isn't a lot of contact. It is contact. It was a penalty. It was very well saved by DVD. Shame she's off her line. I
Yeah.
really thought if that was a confirmed save, I really thought that would be the game. Like that is it. That's the defining moment where you have that save and then you've got like this. There's just aura around a keeper save. There just always is where you just think, okay, well, if we can't beat her from 12 yards one on one with a dead ball, then when are we actually going to beat her? And I think that retake. I mean, I'm sorry, if you're a goalie, you've got
Mm.
to like. I think I rate you so highly if you dive the same way. If
Mm.
they go the other way, fine. That's not your fault. That's good penalty taking. But for you to dive the other way and for them to go the same way kind of makes you look silly because you got it
I
right the first time. But
It's
I don't know.
Renard. It's like I don't understand.
Yeah,
It's
she
Renard.
does the same pen every time.
But it's arguably like the most self-assured player in the world. Like, of course
Mm.
she's gonna go the same way.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna, I'm not gonna harp on
No,
about her
you
box
can't.
score.
No, 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 no. It's not about that. It's just more like I think there is more to gain by diving the same way, regardless of whether you save it, because you have a firmly held conviction, which is what all goalies have. All goalies love a penalty. Like they don't act like I hate penalties because I'm responsible. No, they welcome it. You have they're nuts. You have the Emmy Martinez's, the Endlers. Like they want to psych people out. They're getting
Yeah,
in each
but
other's heads.
DVD, I have never seen DVD save a penalty. That's the difference, I think. It's like I think that this was the outlier. She's not very good on penalties. So to
Fair
me,
enough.
her saving it, like, okay, yes, it was eventually ruled back, but
Yeah.
her saving it, like, I would have been like, surely you've done your research on Renard. Surely
Yeah.
like, this is not. And by the way, the second penalty was worse than the first
Oh
penalty.
yeah, it
It
wasn't
was
great.
so
But
much more
she sent it the
savable.
wrong way. You
Yeah.
can't really say it's the same penalty ultimately. And then the second goal, I mean, this is them doing their homework and this is us doing our homework
Mm.
as football fans who consume both of these teams on a weekly basis, watching one team absolutely hammer set pieces in against their league sides and one team who has been consistently beaten by set pieces in big games, important games that have cost them points in their domestic ties. So I think this moment is a poor moment for not just Kim Little, not just
Mm.
anyone in the box, but Renee Sledges, who probably should have known that this was coming with the barrage of players they have at the back to be able to have at the back post. Obviously, did I have Diani on the back post? Probably not. I had
Mm.
Hegerberg
Mm.
or Renard
Heaps.
or with Lindsay Heaps or
Who
Ariel
scored with a
Magi.
head
Yeah,
already in that
exactly.
game.
Yeah, exactly. But it was Diani at the back post. Kim Little caught out as well. But I think that honestly, there is a part of me that, again, this is my take on your side that you don't particularly like, which is that you guys kind of need to be behind in first legs. You kind of need to be in
I
that
just
space where like there is something about the way I watch Arsenal where they don't like being ahead in that first leg. Like they just don't play the same way when push comes to shove in a leg where you're up. Like the idea that this was going to be for you like a 1-0
yeah.
hold or like a 0-0 hold, like that can't ever be in that can't ever be in the script when you're looking at the game last year when you went to the Groupama. You're going down after you've beat them at home. You're going to treat them the way they treated you at your home ground. So it is a different mentality when you're going into the second leg winning versus the second leg behind, and you've got nothing to lose, really.
I just think it's a straw man's argument. It's
Of,
like
of course, of course, it's a
how am
straw
I?
man, but
Yeah,
I'm not an Arsenal fan. Like
yeah, of course.
I look at it from a semblance of the way in which you guys play when your backs are to the wall, which is how you played once they scored the two goals,
Yeah.
which was quite impressive. And I think to myself, why do you need to be one goal down to play like this?
But it's a marker of a team that obviously hasn't adapted if they constantly need to be behind. It's
Mm,
to me,
true.
you are not an elite footballing team. You are not the team that we went behind in the Champions League final. We were behind basically in terms of everyone's expectations of us, but that's more about spirit and underdog mentality. The idea of being behind, especially against this Lyon side. I mean,
Yeah,
when that
I
goal
see a
went
side
in,
you've beaten as well. Yeah.
that's true, a side that we've beaten. But when we went behind on aggregate, not even in the game, just on aggregate, the slump, the feeling of defeat was already upon us. And you say that, for example, we need to be behind. I
Mm.
actually think if we were behind in the first leg, we wouldn't have been able to come back in the second. I don't think that any of the conditions would have changed. Lyon would have played the way that they played, and that's the brilliance of Lyon, in my opinion, is that they don't change in accordance to the other team or the score line. They keep going. Yes, Arsenal rose in the second half, but it was fundamentally because Lyon were able to establish a style of play and a tempo of play that we then eventually met. It was never us setting a standard in the second half. It was always us meeting the already established one.
Totally understand that, but in ways that is kind of like that is meeting a standard that you weren't hitting is ultimately rising to the occasion. And look, for someone who I thought was pretty much locked up in a lot of ways in that first leg for her attacking ability in Alessia Russo, who wasn't able to mount the chance creation or the clinical nature, for her to get on the end of an absolutely peach of a call from me that Smilla Holmberg would play her role in this leg. I definitely knew that that was coming, and to put her in that advanced position ahead of Smith, to swap the wings, to make sure that she's on that side, she's on that beloved right side, getting ahead of Salma Bacha, the player who's been cooking you all game, to put fresh legs against her and whip that ball back. That's what you need. That's what champions do, right? And the thing is that goal was ultimately against the run of play, against the characteristics of what Lyon were trying to do, which was hold off the game. Again, both it felt like every time a team went ahead, it was one is enough. One is just enough. And I think that that's where this camaraderie in midfield, where Lily Johannes plays her role and Egarola plays her role in being able to nullify the Mariona of it all, the Kim Little of it all. Like, these are two world-class players for Arsenal who for the first time, I can say in a long time, haven't delivered in a big European game. Like these are two players that I very rarely give criticism to because of their impact in big moments. And I mean, namely Kim Little's impact in this exact fixture 1 year ago, to be targeted by heaps, and Lily Johannes in ways where she looked leggy. She kind of looked leggy in a way. She looked tired. The player who's built of a V15 engine, who never runs out of steam, looked out of steam. And you can't argue with Engen, who woke up this game, who actually did her role on Blackstenius to make sure she didn't get any space. But it was an amazingly worked third goal. Like you can't, and I agree. You did say it when we were watching the game that you can't argue with the fact that that third goal was just a fantastic move. It started on the right side. It started with Bacha inverting both sides, flicking the ball the other way, and then the long cross from Dumornay all the way to get Uwcl back into that move on the side. And like, look, it is razor tight. It is pretty much a perfect run. It's a great finish as well into the side netting. Uwcl, we did say it. She's doing the Chloe Kelly thing. She's turning up when it matters. We've hampered her all year for not pulling this form. Where has this been? Uwcl for club versus Uwcl for country. Like it's Hayley Rasso-esque. And then now we're looking at her like, you know what? She's probably a brace in a Champions League final away from a top 5 in a Ballon d'Or again. It's that kind of Chloe Kelly season where everyone goes, well, she's only got this many goals and this many games. It's like, but when are the goals? When are the games? When is she impacting in the season? And this is exactly why Michelle Kang and Giraldez brought this girl in to change results, to change the outcomes of what happened last year. And when you need someone to finish a game, this is the kind of player you have.
It's really interesting to me because I really thought that the difference maker in this game would be someone like Katoto, mostly because the switch between Hegerberg and Katoto, one playing Champions League football, the other playing more league football, was so fascinating to me because Katoto came in off the back of a fantastic season, a fantastic run of form with PSG. She is, on paper, the starting striker for any side in the world. The fact that Hegerberg is in there just proves that Lyon are 100% reliant upon basically like the pedigree of a player, right? But the fact that Uwcl was able to do this for 90 plus minutes, right? 2 matches. She had a fantastic first half in the first leg.
Unbelievable goal as well.
Two fantastic halves in the second leg. I wonder whether this is a Katoto, whether this is a Katoto Hegerberg thing. She might not do it in the league, but she might win them the Champions League. And that to me is intelligent transfer, the use of a transfer market in terms of let's get players who know how to play a league, know how to play 25 games, and maybe don't do it. And then maybe everyone else underestimates them, but they come into big Champions League games like she has done and like she was doing for likes of Germany in big games and let her shine and let her play in a European stage, one that she probably loves to play in anyway. And you can't argue with the fact that in this game there were 2 Chloe Kellys on the pitch. One was Uwcl, one was Chloe Kelly.
Chloe Kelly.
One was doing a fantastic job, and the other one came on and basically did nothing. And that's the difference between the substitutes. Miller Holmberg was fantastic, but the rest of the substitutes, bar Pullover, who was playing all right, weren't doing the finishing.
She was pretty aggressive. I think she came in with the energy you needed to like soak up a bit of pressure. I feel like there was, after the goal, there was a chance for them to get a fourth and squeeze you. I feel like the Hegerberg Katoto debate will live on until Hegerberg retires ultimately. But again, Hegerberg's the all-time UWCL leading scorer. Yeah. You're going to start her if she scores, extends that lead. Like, again, we're even moving on. Like, when we look at the preview for the final, she's still, like, regardless of the form she's in, it doesn't actually matter. It's kind of that, like, it's kind of actually country ball in a way. It's a bit international in a way where, like, her pedigree has allowed her to recognize that anyone knows, it doesn't matter what form she's in, the opposition knows that, okay, yes, Hegerberg didn't have it over 2 legs against you, that's fine, but she easily could have. Like there would be no doubt in our mind, or no like shock in our mind, if she scored 2 in this game or she scored 2 in the first, and you'd just be like, well, it's Arda having a game, right? It's just having that like belief in a player who can be off form or in form and just do it when it matters is unrivaled. And I think Katoto doesn't have that, despite the fact that, like, I mean, yes, you're right. She walks into a lot of sides. She doesn't walk into every side, I think, just systematically. I think she is hard to play with. And I think that's what's holding her back, is that her lack of big game minutes has made it that no one can really whip it to where she wants it. Like, I don't think she gets the headed chances that she gets for France. I think for France, she's a different breed as well. And I think that's what happens, is that in international ball, they get that 90 minutes. And then for Lyon, it's so heavily rotated on the precipice of 4 trophies that they're trying to accrue pretty much every year, that you end up with a moment like a Katoto header that needs to be reliant on the fact that a team has to facilitate for them. And I think Diani and Brand won this game against Smith and Ford, against Fox and McCabe. I feel like there was a lot of dropped heads at the end of that game, and huge elation for Giraldez and Michelle, who have worked very, very tirelessly to get to the final in Oslo. I mean, it'll be an interesting return for Arda and Ingrid Engen, two Norwegians playing in their own home country for their final against another team who won't potentially have their home nation player in that final. Obviously, I'm talking about Caroline Graham Hansen, who has been confirmed with a adductor injury, I believe, for 3 weeks. So they don't know if she'll make the final or not. But boy, did she have an impact in this second leg against Bayern Munich at a packed out new camp. I really think, we even got Benchwarmers comments on our TikTok about it. People were saying I said 4-1. I said it. I was almost the Oracle incarnate, but I'm actually not going to take it. And it's not because it's not 4-1 versus 4-2. It's because of the way in which it was played, which is the fact that Bayern Munich, tipped the hat off. Honestly, they were absolutely unbelievable in the last 20 minutes of that game. Barcelona were just trying to survive, and to do that at their home ground, Nou Camp, where they're basically untouchable. It's like Renée at the Emirates. It's honestly like one of the biggest fortresses in any sport, nearly any sport in the world. And the fact that they made them look lackluster was a testament to Pernille Harder, who we will get to properly eventually. But let's start where it mattered, which is when I was the Oracle incarnate in this first half, where Caro and Bacha were exploiting the lack of Ket. The lack of Ket in the side, basically. There's no other way to describe it. Balisea, Stina Pedersen, she's good, but she's not Ket. Ket has been amazing this season. And my God, did Romeo just go, Caro, cook her. Like a Norwegian assassin vibes. There's a reason why we did it. And she whipped that ball across. It was fantastic the first time, and Salma's foot was an inch away from it, like she was treating it like 110-meter hurdles, like we were going back in the day with Salma. But the second one ends up as a dime for Salma. Salma, who's played herself into ridiculous form, kind of doing the Uwcl Brand thing. At the end of the year, when it matters, she's turned up, she's hitting passes, perfect ping passes. Both of these players have played Claudia Pina off the park in a lot of ways, have played Vicky Lopez off the park, because when they're on form, there is just a clear gap between the best of Salma, the best of Caro, and then the best of Pina and Vicky. But it was, vindication for both Leggy and I with Salma's UCL run, Caro's amazing work, menacing. But it was Bayern Munich who were adverse in the sense of pressure. They were getting absolutely brutalized. They couldn't break out of their own half, but all it took was for Pernille Harder to start pressing Irina Paredes, forces the tackle, forces the turnover pass. Amani threads it through to a 3v1 of Mappi Lyon versus Tanikawa, Dalman, and Harder. And it was Tanikawa making that inverted cross run to open up Mappi's body shape. She plays it over to Dalman, and Dalman just gets that ball just beyond the tackle, beyond Katakoi, and it was 1-1, game on, one attack, one goal. And that's what you have to do in the Nou Camp. You just have to be clinical. And then it was 5 minutes after that, Barca just kept going, but they went to the left side now, and they had Esme, who, I've never really recognize this part of Esme's game, but her aerial ability for a left back is a joke. And I think that is kind of the Rolfo thing. I think it's kind of the emulation of that, is that she does have the aerial ability to do those kind of things, but her ability to just make sure that she can stabilize the left side in the air as well as the ground, and then make up the ground and cover the ground to attack Gwyn in the way she did, get on the outside of Gwyn, whip that ball, and it was a crazy scramble. This moment for the second goal is from the two most technical sides probably on the earth. This was a shambles. This was like, this is prime West Ham versus Liverpool moment where the ball's bobbling around. Gilles tries to clear it. It bounces off Caro. It goes into the path of probably the worst player if you're a
Yeah.
Bayern Munich player, in Putellas on her right foot, Lorena's right foot. The weak foot slices the ball into the bottom right corner. Yes, what a shock. Lorena has scored at the new camp again. It's almost guaranteed. I don't even think a betting app would let you bet on that. But it summed up a lot of the half. There was some shaky ass clearances from Bayern Munich. The one where Clara Bull tries to launch it and it hits Armani like right dead center in her back and then falls to Esme, and then Marmutovic makes a ridiculous save. But just the amount of pressure they put on a side, and it's like we'll talk about the game eventually, but we watched the Liverpool City game before this because they were on at the same time. The speed at which this game was played was I felt like I was watching a game on 3 times speed, the way they were pressing so hard and so aggressively for so long. It was immense. But Caro missed a header from Salma's cross. It was dangerous. That first half was just absolutely guns a-blazing, and then it flowed on into the second half. Salma's ball to Ewa, Barbara, Payor. What a header. This header, I could sit here and just say, oh, it's just a cheap Payor header. Everyone says Bunny's the best striker in the world because of her aerial ability. She's beaten Vanessa Gilles, probably the best aerial threat in the world, to this header. She's put her arm there to stop Gilles from jumping at it. The ball from Salma, the height of it, so that Ewa can contort her body to get around to it. And Gilles, her best aerial heading is the ones that are high. So they've clearly practiced this low drill dart where Ewa just laces this header into the bottom right corner. It is just perfect forward craft from a world-class forward. You think to yourself, after this goal, 3-1, we're like, it's going to be 7 again. They're going to do it again. They're going to go after what happened in that group stage game, and they could put their heads down. And then the 57th minute, that ball from Pina to the back post, Esme headers it perfectly. Again, that aerial ability. And then, Putellas' bicycle kick into the side netting 4-1. Like, this goat just bow down to the queen, who can just do things. Like there are moments like I'm watching last year and we're watching Aitana be the best player in the world, and you're like, this is my goat, and my goat does nothing. And I just think to myself, why can't my goat just do this for me so I can validate it? And then she does this, and I'm just like, yeah, come on. This is no one else's realm. This is Payor and Lexi. They're the only 2 players I would think who would contort their body like that for that goal. But yeah, 4-1, you think there's no way back. And then, you saw the momentum switch. What did you think of what happened to Barca and what happened to Bayern in this last 30 minutes?
I think the last 30 minutes basically encapsulated what happens when Bayern are able to basically lock in and recognize the established weaknesses that were already prevalent within this match. Transition football, long balls, actually beating people on a foot race, which they were able to do. I feel like the introduction of Aitana is one of those things where we hyped it up so much.
Oh my God, yeah. Exactly.
But it's one of those things. I think having her on at that point, you think, if you're Romeo, then you're going, we've won this game.
Yeah, 4-1, 5-2 on aggregate.
Yeah, we can have her on. It's done. But it's putting her in those pockets of space where it's most dangerous to make a turnover. That's where she's not a striker, she's a midfielder. So you're not going to be able to have the luxury of what she did later on in the game when she was able to go 1v1. That's something you would expect if, for example, when Alexia Putellas came back for the Lyon game 2 years ago, you can afford to have a player like that on when you're only 1-0 up, and that's a tighter margin. So when Aitana did this turnover, to me, what it proved was Bayern were finally able to recognize the patterns of play that Barcelona were playing. This was not a chaos ball of any type from Bayern or Barca. It just, one was playing better football than the other until, as you said, those last 30 minutes, those last 25 minutes was Bayern being able to meet the standard of Barcelona, and B, rattle something that I think that Lyon may want to press on if they want to get something out of their game against Barcelona as well. And you have to give credit to someone like Harder, who is going to be there up for it at any minute of any game.
She was, I mean, I'm not even joking. In a 4-2 loss,
Mm.
she's player of the match to me.
Yeah.
Like she
Yeah.
was absolutely sublime.
Her and
And then
Dalman.
also,
Dalman
oh,
was
Darman, yeah,
insane as well.
Darman was mental. The two of them were combined. That's when they had to return the favor. But I also want to shout out Sarah Geordie, who
Mm.
virtually didn't make a mistake. I mean,
Mm.
there was so much talk about the Vicky Lopez or Sarah Geordie, who's
Mm.
going to play in that center of the park. One of them sits, one of them creates, and she sat and worked against a very good midfield, a midfield of Stanway, a midfield of Tanikawa that was doing
Both of which
absolute
were, I
damage.
think
Like,
Amani and Stanway had their worst games I've seen all season,
mm,
including that 7-1. I think it was equal to the fact that they were both completely nullified by Patry as well, who had like one of those games, no GA, but
yeah.
so influential.
In the first half, I think
Mm.
Patry was amazing in the first half, but I want to talk about the introduction of Ariana Caruso into this game
Mm.
because Ariana Caruso plays a pivotal role in this change. So she comes on for Stanway and Imade comes on for Tanikawa. And obviously that meant that Harder came deeper into the 10, Imade goes in the 9, and then you have Caruso in this aggressive role with Amani sitting, right? And I actually think Amani he was playing a role in that second half. I think in the first half she had that moment when she started that counter attack, but in the second half she was forced to sit, she was forced to play the Stanway role so Caruso could get forward, they could be aggressive and not go, like they're going to throw the kitchen sink. Didn't matter if they went to 5-1, 6-2,
Mm.
whatever, they were going to go for it. And Caruso was absolutely sensational coming on. This 30-minute cameo from her, she makes a ridiculous amount of pressing. Like I would love to know the sprint stats on like her recovery runs, her
Mm.
aggressive presses, her forward sprinting presses. The speed and aggression she was getting to was not handled by the likes of Patry Guiharo, was not handled by the likes of Mapi Leon and Irina Paredes. But it was obviously that Aitana mistake
Mm.
that obviously led to Dalman playing in Harder, returning the favor. They had one goal, one assist each at this point to make it 4-2. That strike through the legs of Paredes was just fantastic. But Harder forcing a lackluster pass from Mapi to Patry that gets intercepted by Dalman, and then Mapi blocks, like gets back, blocks basically a goal on the line. That could have been 4-3, obviously, but they're just getting battered. 5 minutes later, you have Balisea playing Bull, who plays it to Caruso. Caruso does that
Mm.
long shot strike, and Katakoi saves it onto the
Mm.
underside of the bar. And then Mapi clears it before Harder can get there. They're just suffocating them with
Yeah.
press. And then that corner gets whipped in. Pina gets annihilated by Vanessa Shields at the back post. She has 2 goes at it, one saved by Cole. The other one goes across the box, bounces off Ona. Imade, 6 yards out, launches the ball. Irina with a never say die tackle to get that over the bar for another corner. And that corner is dealt with by Vicky, and then Aitana gets that chance to counter. I cannot believe Aitana didn't square that to Pyle. I understand.
That to
I
me, yeah,
understand she
yeah.
went for it, and she saw the headline, and I get that. But like the best striker in the world's running beside you, and everyone would command the respect of you if you did that selflessly. And
True.
look, no one, like,
True.
it doesn't matter, goal or assist, GA, it doesn't matter. You lace the game there. You're 2v1. One of the two is the best striker in the world. You just play her in. But yeah, again, she's trying to announce her return emphatically in style, but the assist would have been enough. And then Pyle had another chance. Marmutovic saved, kept the door open, and then it was Kika's hospo pass to Patry, all because of the press. These are the players that I just never expect to be under that kind of pressure,
It's so funny.
and they get killed.
The players that I mentioned were going to be
Mm.
like the big name players. Kika and Aitana both
Yeah.
made mistakes to
Yeah,
goal.
they got cooked, and I got
Yeah.
oracled because
Yeah.
they get squeezed by Dalman and
Mm.
Caruso. Caruso counters, gives it to Harder. Imade playing wide takes that ball.
Mm.
She doesn't play the best ball back to Harder, but it doesn't matter because Harder somehow makes it work, smashes that ball into the roof of the net. That should have been 4-3. I cannot believe VAR ruled a foul on Patry. Patry is double the size of Caruso. There is no way that she's gone down that, like, she's already going down, and then Caruso gets her. And I agree, she does get her. But if you're already on the way down, you can't accentuate the contact. And I understand rules are rule. It's hustled off. It's whatever. I think Patry is a bull, and I think she knew what she was doing with that. But that basically that goal being ruled out ended the game. But oh my God, Bakala and Parda, everyone in that Bayern side, like, this is not a bad exit in any way. The scoreline flatters Barcelona in a lot of ways, but that was an unbelievable second leg of football. That's as good as it gets. And then
Mm.
now we get as good as it gets. We get what, I mean, you predicted early on. I reckon it would have been episode 13, basically the final that defines a generation of football. The way Lexi reacted when she walked off the pitch. I mean, the way Renard celebrated, the way Lindsay Heap celebrated. This is like teams of football that we will never ever forget. And I mean, I actually don't know how to navigate this situation of Barca and Lyon, because I mean, we talk about the games that matter. Like, this has happened time and time and time again. This will be the fourth rendition in a final, and I mean, like, we're just blessed. I had to write like this. I had to write a song about. Well, actually, I wrote two. I wrote one about Lyon, but I might save that for later on. I might save that for when we're closer to the final for the preview.
Mm.
But I've done like the Dembele Cherky, the imbattable, like the unbeatable. They are the unbeatable Lyon right now, and I know
This is
you
you
beat
need
them,
like
but yeah.
20, like you need like 50 plus ball knowledge to know what you're talking about right
I mean,
now.
yeah, and you are my podcast host with
True.
50 plus ball knowledge, for all the listeners out there, if you don't know, just
Go on
Google
YouTube.
France. Yeah, just Google France 2026 World Cup song, and you will feast to enjoy an absolute banger. But what I have done, which I think is more important, is to recognize that this is like the end of an era, and this is like we have to look at the fact that this game just happens again and again and again. And I think this is the last time it happens like this. It might happen again in terms of Barca and Lyon being two amazing teams time and time again. But I feel like this one wraps up an era in a way that needs to be credited with an edit properly. So I'm gonna parody it. We're gonna use a TikTok edit banger, but we'll see how we go. I don't know how this will go, but if I screw it up, we can just cut it out, which is the key. But I'm gonna give it a go. It's called Barca Lyon is back. Barca Lyon is back.
What an
And
inspired
yeah,
name, Ben.
yeah. Well, you all make sense in 3, 2, 1, go. We can talk about Barca, marvel over Lyon, the biggest titles in Woso, who's still going strong. A game that defines the era where nothing can go wrong, and Woso is blessed, but sometimes I wish I could go back. 18-19 in Hungary, 21-20 Turin, 23-24 in Bilbao. Whoa, yeah, the rival is cracked. Providing the best memories just for us, the bench warmers of the world now. Whoa, Barca Lyon is back. Lexi, Wendy, Winsy, Heaps, Vicky, and Johannes are gonna take the mantle, but can't forget Aitana is back. The APA legacy versus the 8-time champions. I just can't live without you. That's all I've got. That's all I've got.
That was amazing. As I
I
say
mean,
every time, I don't know how you do
yeah.
it, but you do it.
I think you do know how I do it, but
No, I do.
ultimately,
I
um,
actually envisage you sitting in your room, like in a
yeah.
corner with that song playing on in the background, and you just
Oh,
like
damn straight. I
writing
mean,
away.
I'm flicking through TikTok. I'm searching up the edits that come up, and like, I just think of these games, these three games that have happened before, which is the main lyric in the song, is that the 21-22, the 18-19, and the 23-24 have told this story time and time and time again. And the thing is, like, we can tell you what has happened in these games. We love these games. These are three. Like, if I was a person trying to explain Wosa to someone, these are three of probably 10 games I would show people to understand the brilliance that has happened between APA, between the 8-time champs. I mean, Lyon do have the one up here, and it is through the likes of players like Hegerberg, who scored a hat trick in that first one. And then you have players like Macario, who did their thing in that final, and Hegerberg, who had her mitts all over that despite Puteas doing her thing. And then the last time, obviously, the magnificent APA. I mean, the moment of all moments, probably the biggest moment in Woso history, the 95th minute goal. There's just so much to tell. There's so much to go through. And we will preview this game properly closer to the date. Probably next week is the play or the week after that, because it is in a while. But Oslo is coming, and I'm so excited. I think like this game is just it's gonna, like, I don't cry a lot. I'm not a crier, but we'll get to a game where I did cry, but I don't cry a lot. But my God, I'm so excited for the fact that, I mean, Barcelona are going to pack them in, but that's what I think. I think it's going to be a riot, but we'll get to that another time. But that is all we have for European ball as we move into Champions. Champions. Ole, ole, ole. We're moving to the WSL, where City we didn't get it done. We got bailed out by a Swede
No,
managing. We got bailed out by a Swede managing and a Swede goalkeeping. No, 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 no,
You
no.
won this league. You
No.
and your fans, it is like the Menso mentality. I don't understand it. It's like I understand Arsenal fans are gonna be like this. Like we're gonna be like, we need to win a league or we're gonna bottle it. Your lot are like, we need to win a league by like 10 points, 15 goal difference.
No,
for
we
it
need to win
matter.
a league. We need to beat Gazball by more than one goal. That's what it was. It was a grudge match. We're obviously talking about City inviting Gareth Taylor back to our stadium, unhurt, unharmed. Very lucky, Gareth. My God, you're lucky Kelly doesn't play for us anymore. But yeah, look, Liverpool were incredibly impressive in this game, especially in the first half, giving our best player, Yui Hasegawa, all the grief in the world. And it's through the likes of that front four that Gazball has crafted, namely Denise O'Sullivan, who I would argue is probably the most dangerous pressing player in like in the scraps of the WSL. So outside the top four, I would say she, like, if we're making a best of 11, I think she slots into the 10. Like it's either her or Fran Kirby,
No,
and
it's not even the 10, it's the
yeah.
8.
Oh,
That's
it's
where I
probably,
think
yeah, but
yeah.
she was I guess she was playing in the 8, but she was just advancing so high because they gave us the luxury to have the ball in our own half and just press from there. And I mean, luckily Yama had blue dyed hair, because my God, the saves she was pulling off. If she weren't making those saves, that blue hair would have looked dumb as crap. But we're lucky that Fisk's shot hit the post that off that corner. I mean, we're starting to look shoddy at set pieces as well. We looked so vulnerable on that right side. Caspi playing like she's playing for the Dutch side, no offense, but look, we had a few chances in the first half, namely the Hempo to Bunny play. That was probably the best moment, but Falk made light work of that. And Falk made a light work of a lot of this game. And Falk has justified a lot of Leggy's point in the fact that she is pretty much the best at making every chance you take look absolutely lackluster. Like there was no chance where I was like, you know what? That should have been a goal. And even the one where Bunny plays Caro in 1-on-1, she full on heat checked Carolyn. Like, so normal keepers rush out, try and get something. She knew Carolyn loves when a goalie rushes. She skips around them with ease, or she chips them. She loves that little chip. She did it to Chelsea. She did it for Brazil as well in the international break. She went, you know what? I'll go a little bit out. I'll go a little bit back. Beat me with a strike. And she struck it straight at her. And she was like, nah, that's nothing. She made her look silly. It was such good keeper mentality from Falk to know which players to rush for and which players to not. And shout out to Shimizu, who did her job on making sure Hempo didn't have the greatest game, and Bergstrom, who came on and also worked really hard to stop Hempo as well, despite the fact that Hempo was on for an hour after she's still quicker than you, and that's pretty impressive. But it was AG playing that ball to Lauren Hemp. Lauren Hemp cooking Bergstrom for the first time when she was on. She whipped that ball to Bunny. Bunny heads it clean. It's a perfect whip. It's a perfect header, but it is straight. It's very, very straight. And Falk dives to the roof of her net magnificently. It reminded me of watching David De Gea in 2014, prime De Gea, saving those shots, making me as a 14-year-old cry at how good he was. But it was the following corner where Bergstrom gets outrun by Kanak to the space. She heads it between two players. I believe one of them's Fisk. I can't remember who the other one is, but Falk probably should have saved it. Probably should have saved this, but her first mistake of the game after a myriad of saves, the ball flies in. Kanak's shoulder gives out. I don't know what happened there. Everyone's celebrating on her, but she's like crying, and we don't know if it's elation or pain, and we're so confused. But we're 1-0 up. We're so confused. I don't know how to describe it other than like pure heroin. Like it was literally Lorde. Yeah, I was gonna say like Lorde's 2013 album in 2026. But again, AJ deciding to use one sub in the 83rd minute. Where's Bene? Where's Clinton? Fine, we don't need them, I guess. But Carolyn in the 10, not my play. He brought on Mary Fowler. Thank you. Mary probably wasn't what we needed in the 83rd minute. We needed pace. We needed power. We needed chance creation. And Mary just wasn't able to get into the game. You need to bring her on earlier if she's going to get into the game and get the time to get it. But bringing on Coombsy for the last minute, finally, see, Gazball, that's how you do it. It's not difficult. You just bring them on. It doesn't matter. Like it wouldn't have even mattered if we drew that game because of Coombsy. We still brought her on for the last Joey game. The ovation she deserved, she rightfully got. I mean, we didn't even talk about the ovation that Aitana got when she came on. Yeah. Jesus Christ, I felt bad for Vicky Lopez. Vicky, yeah, in your household, the whole house just woke up and was like, yeah, beautiful. I mean, to be fair, I was very, very happy. I felt bad because I was cheering for Vicky Lopez, but my actual goat. But yeah, we left it late. A crucial winner, 3 points. We put the pressure on. We had to get a win. It was scrappy. It was ugly, but it was a winner of champions, and it meant that all the eyes were on the Arsenal at the Brighton. This game marks a run of form from Brighton where Vidosic has turned into prime Emma Hayes. There is no other way to describe this other than aura farming their way through Broadfield Stadium and using their home ground as an absolute stomping ground for pretty much Fran Kirby and co. I mean, in this game, there was no Fran Kirby, but Fran Kirby and co. to run the game, and basically Ndosia to solidify herself as basically the best shot stopper in the league.
I went into this game and I was going, who needs Europe? What did we even vote Brexit for? We don't need Europe, right? I was thinking to myself,
I love that's how you went into the game. Yeah, that's the only way you could have thought.
guys, we don't need Europe. Who needs them, right? Like, no one needs Europe. We've already done that. Like, we don't need it. We want the league. That's what we want. So I went into this game going, I'm so confident we're going to be the team. We're going to get back at Brighton. They beat us in the FA Cup. We're going to get back at them.
And Kirby as well. No Kirby.
And it was one of the worst games. And in terms of like pure quality, one of the worst games of football I've seen Arsenal Football Club play in so long. The way that you bounce back from a Champions League second leg loss is to play this game if you want your fans to be so disappointed that they just switch the television off after halftime. Like, I know that a lot of fans did not see Marnham's goal because they were so like devastated and just like pure depression.
It was a good finish. It was a good ball from Russo.
Oh, I mean, Russo half the time was like, you know what, guys? I've decided I'm going to turn into like, I don't know,
Casper the Friendly Ghost.
Yeah, not even that. Like, I'm gonna turn into like, I don't know, like prime Letitia, like the early 2000s ball, and I'm just going to try to shoot the ball from like halfway because I have no other skill set, and everyone else is going to have to follow. And unfortunately, that did not obviously work, and Brighton were up for the challenge. Their high press is one of the best presses.
It's unreal. In the league. It's unreal. Imagine they had Denise O'Sullivan in that midfield, to be fair.
Imagine they had Denise O'Sullivan and didn't have like Rayma Capacho like as their strike. Like imagine they had like a decent striker. Bunny Shaw sure, get your ass to Brighton. You're going to win a quadruple. Like, that's just what's going to happen
I mean,
here.
Maddie Haley comes on in this game, I believe. I
Yeah.
don't know. I don't think she was facilitating in the. I mean, I think she's just been overworked. She's been overused.
This
They're
is
just
their
cooking
second
everyone so
squad.
much.
This is
Yeah,
Brighton's
they pulled
second
out. They whipped
squad.
out their second squad. You whipped out pretty much like, I mean, I think in a lot of ways this is part, like, other than your fullbacks, this is basically your first squad, bar Marnham, like, and Pelova. Like, I think bringing on Stina, bringing on Kelly, bringing on Mariona, which I think is hilarious, by the way, to try and salvage something is very, very funny. Look, you had a lot of chances that were created inside the box. I do agree with the fact that, I mean, Taylor Hines taking pot shots from 25, 30 yards is not the answer to a football match. But, I mean, we have to talk about, again, another set piece, another place where Sonoda, I mean, a player who scored one goal this season, has come in as a somewhat cameo and decided to strike a ball better than she's ever struck a ball in her entire life. And it is just set piece defense again. It is everyone not doing much homework. You don't really need to do much homework against this Sledger side to recognize that they are the antithesis of their Menso side.
I was just about to say, it is so ironic that the team that is called Corner FC cannot for the life of themselves either defend across, and we haven't even mentioned the fact that I think we've scored like less than 5 goals off of set pieces this whole season. We are horrendous off of set pieces. And like, people will say like, this is like so obviously reactionary to the fact that this game is a 1-1 draw against a Brighton team that have been doing well. It's more so the fact that we lost the league with this game.
100%. It's not about the result. It's about what this game meant, especially after the exit. This was the time to wake up. This was the time to set up the mount back, the fight back, which you were doing. Like the fact that we opened the door for you and you were in basically the form of your life. I feel like after that Lyon game, there was a bit of, I don't know, there was a bit of mental checkout in a way. I think there was a bit of not in the sense of that you didn't want this, but in the sense of like that you were just going to like, okay, you beat Lyon at home, you're going to be able to go to Brighton and just walk them over. Like, I think in that first half specifically, I think you had the same, like you didn't have the same amount of chances. You facilitated chances, but they were just like mounting pressure on them rather than facilitating the greatest chance, which, I mean, they ended up having. And their 3 shots were inside the box, whereas 4 of your 7 were from spots where you're never gonna amount to a goal, bar a wonder goal that happens once every 3 games.
This is why I said before that it's not about like being behind, because technically we are behind. We were behind as in a title race. And it's the fact that this game specifically is probably the greatest poetic justice to the season that we've had in the WSL. Because we can have fantastic games against Leicester where we beat them 1,000-0 and have games in the North London derby at the Emirates that galvanizes a squad. But at the end of the day, these are the games that matter. These are the games that 6 to 9 months ago, we also weren't winning. So that's why I said to you, like directly after this game, I think, was like, you deserve this, even if you lost it, even if you won the league based on the results of others. It was also because you were able to complete a full season to the highest level, the same way that Chelsea's been doing for freaking 10 years or something, right? Like, you have been able to do that. Arsenal haven't, Chelsea haven't, Manchester United, God forbid, have not done anything of the sort. And at the end of the day, you just have to commend Brighton. Marnham had a fantastic game, but it's one of those things where you're relying on individual players for a campaign that was going to, if we were to win all our games, have to take everybody and have to take to the last day. And that to me was not the Arsenal of this season. Hopefully it's next season, but
I do agree. And I think it actually really bugged me when they were talking about when pundits were talking about our eventual win from this loss as like a moment, like we've been good all season, but it's just been a team of superstars, when the reality is that we had a team of superstars last year and that team of superstars did not deliver because the management wasn't there, right? This is obviously Bunny on the top of her form. This is Viviane Miedema re-announcing herself in a different position and being the best in the world at whatever position we put her in. But this is Jeglert's win. This is Jeglert's coming into a side, allowing players to build on a level of confidence that was lost with Gareth Taylor by the end. And don't get me wrong, there was confidence with Gareth Taylor. There were players that you could argue were more world-class than the players we have right now, in players like Jill Roord, players like Chloe Kelly, players that people in the world of WOSO rate. And the only person I saw online in terms of prominent pundits or players to give the respect to the league leaders in the way that was conducive to the fact that they've played well as a collective over the season was Alessia Russo at the end of her game, who said it how it was, which was that we've been fantastic all year and not slipped up in ways that were basically made the point that there were moments in in their games, without saying this, there were moments in your games where individual players thought it was on them to win their game, and that basically you're not, the individuals are angry that they're not getting over the line, whereas the reality is when we were losing games, it was AJ taking it on himself. That was AJ losing, not an individual not delivering. It was never and people will force narratives around Bunny, and you have every right to. You're a rival fan who has the right to go, I see Bunny and I think she should be better at this and this and that. But the reality is that we know that Bunny will either do it or not, but it shouldn't be just her, and it solely can't be just her. And obviously with recent news, it won't be just her because of what we'll talk about later on in the podcast. But ultimately it was yet again another thing where I think we can talk about individual players who didn't live up to their expectations in this Brighton Arsenal game. But the reality was that Vidicic, once again, has come up against a manager that many would consider to be better than him, and he has tactically outclassed them time and time again. The last 5 weeks have shown Vidicic to be rivaling up there in that, they're in that precipice of, they are so far out of the pack in my opinion in the WOSO pack. We can talk about Tottenham and we can talk about the fact that Tottenham are they're evening out probably pound for pound in some ways similar teams, but mentality,
they're buying their players, they're buying their success.
Vidicic is building it. Yeah, exactly.
And I think it's important to say that the pundits that are expecting world-class talent in the WSL have such an unrealistic expectation of what world-class is. Because unless Alexia Putellas comes to the WSL, that is what they see as quote-unquote world-class.
There we go.
Right? but in essence, your squad, our squad, Chelsea's squad, even United squad have world-class, the majority of the time, world-class players. This is a world-class side. It's just because, and this is probably, City's, the City curse, if you like, is that you were only able to win leagues and you were only able to win trophies when collectively we could all see and we could all understand that these players are fantastic. Kira Walsh, Stanway, these are players,
Scott.
Ellen White, Jill Scott, these are players that everyone thinks of when they think world class, especially in the WSL.
Even that Nikita Paris season, that was her at the top of her game, right?
At the start of the season, no one would have said Jade Rose world class defender. No one would have said
Becca
Yamashita world class.
Becky Kanak didn't have that respect that she had now. Yama,
Fujino.
I 100% agree.
Fuji, as
well.
Yeah.
Even Carolyn was seen as a hit and miss player. There was
just
talent.
Came into WSL
and Coffee has solidified that security she brought to the midfield. But I mean, we are talking about a run. Well, I mean, I want to just make clear with this Brighton run that the last time they lost was the 19th of March against Chelsea. If it wasn't for Alyssa Thompson, we would be talking about Brighton in a way that's basically that they've beaten everyone above them in the table, or drawn with everyone above them in the table, or drawn with teams that are on better form than them at the time. So they drew with Liverpool, they beat Arsenal, or they beat Arsenal once, drew with them again, drew with Brighton, which we're going to get to now, and beat us in a space of about 4 weeks, which is just sublime. But we're going to talk about this other Brighton performance. generational. Love talking about Vidicic for double the amount of time we usually do, but they were so
Yeah.
close to finishing off this game. And if it weren't for bloody Leah Schuller
Leah
squeezing the
Schuler.
last juice of Woso she
Mm,
still has in her, and I mean, look, this was an amazing performance from Brighton again. The high press, the aggression. They were getting, again, United suffocated the same way. They just do, like, you know what you're going to get. You've seen it
mm,
time and time again, but you cannot stop the fact that Kankovic is just this V8 engine that cannot be rivaled. Kirby was playing on, again, just in those spaces, in those pockets. I don't understand how she gets so much space. It is sublime. I mean, the reason they had to use their second squad against you is because they played not that long
yeah.
before against this first team Brighton side. Tooney back in the lineup. No excuses, United fans saying, oh, we don't have Tooney. Where's our best player, our world-class Ella Toon? Ghost. Absolute ghost. She did yak. 82 minutes of what? Exactly. How many chances created? Zero. Yeah, like nothing. She wasn't there. She was facilitating for players who weren't doing it. Rolfo was on the left side and she was whipping balls in. Mallard, someone you've said needed to start it again, couldn't get space. Hayes Minami said no, absolutely not. You're not getting anywhere near. Olme pressed to death by Kankovic. That midfield mix of her and Simmons, and the way Charlie Rule has
Mm.
brought life into the right side, allows Kiko Saker to get further up the pitch. They were so good in the first half, and that forced basically my Roman Empire moment happening, which is Tullis Joyce missing a pass and then Kankovic rounding Tullis Joyce for the 1-0 in the 40th minute. What are the scenes? They should have just held that 1-0. They were so well pressed in that second half. It didn't matter that they were losing the possession. They were countering at the right times. They were keeping them away from high percentage chances. Tooney's shot very much not desirable in terms of the fact that it was blocked. Like there was no really good chance. The Park chance was dragged wide from the edge of the box. Shock at Jess Park trying to do the unbelievable, and when it doesn't go well, she doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. It's one of those plays where it's not like, oh, she's building to something. She needs to be given the freedom, and Maisie Simmons and Kankovic made sure that she did not have that. And Miyazawa's chance was skied, but it was Leah Schuller doing formerly world-class things in that same way. She did make that run perfect. It was a great ball from, I believe it was Riviere. Was it Riviere? I think. And
Riviera.
Schuller just, I mean, that's her low driven. That's her specialty. I'm surprised they actually didn't get a second there, to be honest. That's kind of their move, to be able to for her to smash and grab and get in that flow state. But nevertheless, 1-1, disappointing result for Manchester United, which kind of sits them out of any semblance of realm of the Chelsea, Arsenal, City of it all, I think, in
They're
my
going to miss
opinion.
Champions League. They're going to miss
Yeah.
Champions League. That's pretty obvious.
All
And
the
that is
investment, and
all the
that's it.
investment. That is a disgrace. And I think this is where players need to make decisions. Am I going to grow as a footballer at Manchester United? No, you're not. Jess Park has done nothing extraordinary than we didn't know that she could do. And I think as a City fan, you can say the best of Jess Park was at City, but
Mm.
also at Manchester United. She
Yeah, that
wasn't
three
doing
month,
anything.
but
Yeah.
3 month stead at both clubs where she was probably player of the month in
Mm.
both clubs
Yeah.
for respective. But
One of the players in the
like
comp.
I look, you know me, I love
Mm.
harping on my crosstown rivals in ways that I can only paramount to the fact that Grace Clinton won, Jess Park 0, right? Like this is unreal. That this is limbs on limbs, but. I do want to remind, like, I don't have a short-term memory. This is what happened to us last year, right? So we ended up fourth. There were a lot of questions about us not having Europe and what it all mean. And obviously there was a bounce back. Obviously there was the move to what we are supposed to be, which is what we are now. But is this not an opportunity for United? I don't know if Skinner stays, to be honest, because there's been a lot of chat about that. But the reality is, with no Europe, obviously they wanted back-to-back Europe. That would be the goal. When I'm a pessimist. I'm going to look next year with Europe that the goal in the league is not like, obviously I'd love to go back to back, but I live in a realm where Chelsea are probably going to snub our best striker, and I live in a realm where Arsenal are probably going to get Searchy and build up and bolster. And I think to myself, if we can get Europe back to back and solidify us as like the big three, and I understand they're not in the big three, and we are trying to build into the big two. Basically, we're trying to make it a big three, and this league win is like a big way to announce that on our stage. We've broken a 7-year drought. We've stopped the monopoly, and we've done it before your lot, which is amazing. But this is a chance for, in my opinion, for United to play less games, to take the league a little bit more seriously than they could have, because when they were playing European ball, yes, they did well against Bayern. How does that look now? How does it look now? We're a month out from them exiting Europe, and we're not thinking about it in rose-tinted glasses like, oh, Skinner, you did a great job in Europe. It's now, Skinner, you've lost a final against Chelsea. You've been dumped out you got dumped out in the quarters, and now you are out of Europe. So you're 100% right in the incentivization, but is the word of their sporting director, is the word of Skinner to go, look, guys, we haven't achieved anything this year in a way that's conducive to progression of trophies or progression in stages. Ultimately, they did get to a quarterfinal, which they never got to before. But next year, we can go at the league properly the way our rivals did. Look at what they did. Look at what they did from the position they were in. Is that not their mentality? Is that not the sporting director's mentality in this way?
I disagree. This is the first season that Manchester United have been in Europe. Bar this season, they have not done much. They haven't won a league. They've won what, an FA Cup? Like
One FA Cup, yeah.
It comes to a point where you reached Champions League football, and you are so plagued by the ghost of your past of not being able to reach top three in the league, that you can't do it again. You invested so much money. You invested time in Skinner and time in the project of maintaining European football at this club. I think about, and this is a men's football reference, I think about the Arsenal years early in the Emirates. We had a fantastic run at Highbury. We reached the Champions League final, and now it's taken us 20 years to reach another Champions League final. Is it going to take another, how many years? How many years
For them
since
to win silverware?
it was 7 years or so, right? Like, I don't know. I don't remember the exact year that Manchester United entered into the competition, but how many years has it been? Does it have to take that amount of years for Manchester United to reach another, what was it?
UWCL group stage
UWCL group
yeah.
stage? Like, that to me is more an indictment on Manchester United, on the establishment, on the fact that you can have these greats, these Champions League winners in your club and not use them to the best of your ability, not in the Champions League, just in the league that you were firing at the start of the season. It's about consistency. It's about everything that we expect Manchester United to have done, and they did. They proved us right in calling them a bottle job of a team, in calling them an inconsistent side, and ultimately in calling them a side that are so obviously incapable of being a genuine WSL contender for the immediate future.
I do agree in the sense of they are starkly better than Tottenham and Brighton and LCL, in my opinion. I think they are ahead of the pack.
Not Brighton.
Yeah,
Not
I mean,
Brighton.
no, not Brighton now for current form, but across the season they have proven a level of consistency that has put them 14 points ahead of Brighton, right? The problem is that the way in which they played against the big three was like they weren't a part of a big four.
Exactly.
So going up against your lot and scoring one goal and admittedly 2 draws, like, okay, kudos to you. You locked them out. They locked you out basically. And then you beat them in an FA Cup game, right? Against Chelsea, you got packed in both cup cup final knockout stages. You got beaten in the league by them as well, and we did the double over you, 3-0 both sides. Yeah, Viv packed you in on both sides of the Manchester derby, right? And that's the indictment. That's the indictment, is that when the big games come up for them, even the Bayern game where you can say they were admirable, they worked hard, they pressed hard, they scored good goals, it's not enough. The losses in big games, let's say we're talking about the teams that are better than them, they are 1-8 1-8. It's not good enough. Even I would say 1-9 if you combine
Mm.
all the games that they had earlier in the season in those group stage games. I'm thinking about, yes, they beat Atleti. Yes, they beat Atleti and they did well against them. But I mean, I'm thinking about that Lyon game that they lost 3-0. That was probably the big one. And the Wolfsburg game that they got packed in 5-2. So like it is 1-9, 1-10 against teams that you expect them to stir up something, prove that you're bigger than what they actually are. But I think that's all we really have for the Manchester United of it all as we move to Leicester City and Chelsea. Chelsea doing the business against a side who are solidified in that WSL2 playoff with, I mean, the almighty Australian Sam Keros. I mean, she is just a machine. I mean, like this bloody girl, she's unstoppable. I don't know what it is. She's so just like I mean, I know she was injured, but like this is now she's kind of back. Like this is like what I expect her to be at this age. Like she's not the same as what she was, but the ability to pack down teams that are down on the barrel, like she's putting the legacy down, right? That first goal is pretty much vintage Sam Kerr. That's how I expect most of her goals to go in. And when she moves to the NWSL, that's how I expect most of her goals to go in there as well, which is smacking teams that cannot handle her. And she took the goal. She made the history. Super Frank Kirby is one lower down in the list, and is she now all-time? Is she the all-time Chelsea scorer, all-time in the WSL? It's insane numbers from an export player who has proven her worth as probably the greatest Australian WSL player, and probably will be until probably ever, but until we see any semblance of generational talent worthy enough to get over there and do the breadth of longevity that she has in this competition.
We never doubted that Sam Kerr, I'll go one step further, is the greatest Australian player to play in Europe.
Yeah,
I don't think we ever
100%.
doubted that. I think it's the fact that you expect a bit more from a player that has reached the levels. And I think that that expectation is what fuels Sam Kerr. That's why she can do what she's done in the last 2 weeks, which is she's been back in form against lower sides, admittedly, but against sides that are still in the WSL. You don't choose who you're going to play against and start
Exactly
against and
right.
score against. With Leicester in this game, it was a desperately pedestrian display of defending. It was the Leicester that will see them relegated. It is also the Leicester that I think will not be able to match the team that they will be facing up against in the playoff. I do call this the Van Egmond effect because I know that Birmingham are going into the WSL. She may be leaving the WSL. Maybe she should have just stuck with Brum.
Oh,
But
brutal. No,
but
it'll be no, you can't do that to Stourbridge because they will beat them. Like there will
no,
be
I
it will
know.
be a
I
ripper
know
game.
that.
Bar a Shannon O'Brien absolute masterclass, which look, she will score. Even if they
Yeah.
lose, she will score. This girl scores in every game. Like I've not watched a game of Shannon O'Brien where she does not score. And Lucy Bronze, I mean, great to give her that free goal. That was just horrendous defending. But look, we have to talk about Lauren James. Like the fact that this is the form that justifies the opinions I've had in the past, the opinions that most English Lioness fans do have, which is the fact that when she's on, are there many wingers better than her at what she does, right? So the comparison I have put forward many in the past is probably the reason this podcast exists, is when Leggy and I spoke about at a time when Lauren James was at the peak of her powers, we were talking about the difference between
2024.
Claudia Pina versus LJ. And I was pretty adamant that LJ is like not leaps and bounds above her, but at what she does is genuinely unstoppable in ways that Pina definitely showed beyond the take, and like Pina has shown. I think Pina has had an interesting role at Barcelona this year, and we'll get to that in the league game specifically. But the run she's had, Lauren James has had in this is that's the sad part about it, is that we're calling it a run. This isn't Lauren James for the season. This isn't Lauren James for the entirety of a body of work, which is what wins you the Ballon d'Ors, which is what wins you the competitions that you're so desperately after. But the curl, the effortlessness of that strike, the no look outside of the box strike hits the side netting, and then the free kick top bins on the other side. It's unbov to the levels of players that again, I know she hates that term, but the reality is that it is the reason I think it is world class in a lot of ways is because it looks effortless. She makes the sport that is very difficult and very fast, and especially in this generation, transitional football where you don't get away with not being the fastest or the strongest. Her breaks are amazing. She gets into the spaces where she needs to and provides absolutely masterful finishes. And the question becomes when they don't come, especially at the start of the year. We saw it. She needed to stand up in the start of the year as that player, and we're only seeing it now when it kind of doesn't matter, and that's a shame. Where was this against? I mean, there was one goal against Arsenal, I can give her that, but where was this at the start of the year? Where was this when they were trying to develop a mountain form where they're trying to retain the league for the eighth, ninth, 150th time? Like that this is the part, is that eventually the luck fades out, and that's why we're in this situation here, I guess.
And that's why we've mentioned it before. The form of Chelsea is directly reflected in the form of Lauren James. And that's why I think, and that's why I originally made the case for Pina, was because I think that Pina could walk into any side and make an impact, whether that be as a super sub, whether that be as a starter. Lauren James and Chelsea are so intertwined in their form that when I see that Chelsea aren't performing well, I'm not expecting Lauren James to be a difference maker. When the team is performing well, or in games, for example, when they were against Aston Villa a couple of weeks ago, and you're thinking to yourself, it's a very tight game, it's a very stodgy game, who is going to be the difference maker? Well, Chelsea were playing like decent amount of football there to facilitate Lauren James. And that's the difference between the two. I don't think that Lauren James walks into a side that is not going to enable her to be her best, and she's going to take it upon herself to make her mark on that side. Pina will. And I think less of it is to do with football and more of it to do with culture. Lauren James has talked about it before. She's not a particularly audacious type of character off the field, on the field. That's fine, but I generally believe that does have an impact on how you play and how you make your mark on a game.
100%. And I think you start to see spurts of players who come into the league with that kind of energy. And I think of when we're looking at Spurs and LCL, like I gave Signe Gopset a lot of criticism based on the fact that I kind of thought she was going to come in with a semblance of that LJ energy, not to the same level, but like the ability to take on the game herself, mold the team around her. And I know it's hard to do in January, but we're starting to see the fruits of that labor. I think Gopset does really well to take this shot near post. There was nothing that LCL could do to stop her in her travels, in her run of form, which she has started to pick up. I mean, ultimately, she is proving a lot of people like myself wrong in the sense of that I kind of thought she did have that Euros moment and that was kind of it. But this was probably a player of the match performance in a way to start off this game so well. And then, I mean, I think Olivia Holt has solidified herself as Tottenham's player of the season. And obviously you could give it to Koga, you could give it to a Nilden, I don't know, a Hamano if you really want, with the way she's traveled when she's moved back. But I think it is just Olivia Holt. She's had such a good season. Like, the biggest praise I can give her is that strike from distance, a rocket into the top right corner to beat Elena Lette, who we've sung our praises about in goal, is not something like, it didn't surprise me at all. It was a very unspectacular goal for someone of her caliber, because this is what she does. She's got the ability to rifle them from distance. She's got the ability to run inside and take those audacious, like, angled shots to the far post. I'm thinking like Alessia Russo against the Matildas in the semi-final of the Euros, those kind of strikes in those corners that only the world-class players have rights to do. And she's taking those shots because she has the luxury to do it. And obviously Martin Ho Calcio is going, you know what, you're the one in form, you're the one running the middle of our park and giving the space for players like Tamberg and England to not really score but try and facilitate in ways that they can. But it's clearly Holt that's the one that's going leaps and bounds above the others. And yeah, despite the fact that Alana Kennedy scored a goal ahead of a 21-year-old child who couldn't mark her in the box, I don't know why Alana, like, that's the one player, like, I'm not even joking, you're whipping the ball into LCL. Who are you afraid of? Who are you afraid of in that lineup? What, Rylov's going to score a header? Like, I don't think Rylov was on the pitch at that point, but I know Freya Godfrey was, and Maria Perez was. Like, who am I afraid of? Cardinal? Like, is this who I'm terrified of? Saki Kumagai, I guess, can header the ball, but Alana Kennedy is the one player you just stop. You just stop her from getting on the ball because, I mean, we saw it at the Asia Cup. She just does get on the end of things, and it was a good goal. I think Lena Gunning-Williams, who did try to mark Kennedy for that goal, had a very good chance to score a consolation to settle it, but Lete made a great save. But that was it for Spurs. Spurs needed that win in a lot of ways. That does separate them from the pack of Brighton, LCL, Everton, and Villa, that 20-point pack. They are on 33. They are behind United in many ways going into the last game. I do think Spurs are sitting where we had them in the league. I think in our predictions you might have had them a little bit lower, but that will shock horror. But I think there is like moments, like I think from an attacking standpoint, at least, I think there is a lot to be impressed about with Tottenham this season in terms of their new varieties and ways to score. But their defensive record rivals the levels of teams that are way worse than them. And that's kind of the dour note of this season.
I think your point about strikers in this league mid-table is one of the things that I think is the greatest part of the WSL's transformation as the world-class league that we know what it is. Beta Olsen, you see it with Shakira Martinez, you see it also with Goodwin and Godfrey. These middle of the pack strikers that can still pull out fantastic goals, fantastic moments for their sides are the reason that neutrals are going to watch even the likes of LCL Spurs. And that's the reason why LCL and Spurs will still be sides that can get the talent of someone like a Holt, someone like a Tanberg. Like these are the reasons why Hamana could potentially stay at Spurs, maybe alongside someone like a Gorpset. So I think at the end of the day, LCL, less Spurs, they're teams that like are so mid-table that they, and they are the two standout mid-table sides, but they played this game on a level that respected each other, respected the league, and respected the fact that mid-table in the WSL is just as good as the tops of some of the best other European tournaments. And I think that that's a testament to the WSL and a testament to the fact that we're still watching these sides because they pull out pretty good games.
100%. And I mean, you were talking about they're the two mid-table sides. I mean, Brighton is smack bang in the middle of them. And the last game of the season is Brighton-Tottenham, which, I mean, look, it's not a game I'll be watching on the last game of the season. I'll be watching West Ham give me a beautiful guard of honor. Thank you very much. But Brighton-Tottenham does have a little bit something tasty about it. I think it is like the up-and-comer versus the idea of who's supposed to be fifth versus like who is fifth and has been in kind of an average run of form. But I would love to see Brighton get. I mean, what would I love to see? I know Brighton will get something out of this game. Are we watching Video Ball right now? It is arguably the best football in the league at the moment. But you were talking about those mid-table strikers. I mean, we're talking about mid-table in a way that's a bit more further down the table when we're talking about Villa and West Ham. But my God, was this not the dichotomy of what you were talking about in terms of strikers on one side not being able to convert jack, and then one striker for West Ham who absolutely converted on all fronts. What an absolute finish. But we are obviously talking about West Ham away from home at Villa Park, packing in Aston Villa 2-0 late on in this game. It was kind of all Villa in a lot of ways. The run of play, the chance creation was something worthy of praise, especially on that left side, I would say, which was helped by Leggy's former GOAT, current GOAT, all-knowing, all-powerful God that is Niswanger, god of transfer. Like she is the Norse god of nearly. Like I think that's the way to describe her. But
Nearly
she was,
Swanger.
yeah, Thierry Niswanger. Thierry nearly Swanger. Like she was trying to facilitate, Jean-Francois trying to facilitate for Kirsty Hansen and Ebony Salmon, two of the most the two players who just went to the Stina Blackskenia school of finishing in the 21-22 season. But this is just a shambles. That specific one, the specific one that we've all seen the highlight of, is the 1v1 for Salmon that gets saved, and then Balumu redemption game. Wow. Ines Balumu. I never thought I'd see the day that she would live beyond the hair tug, but clearly her tombstone in the WSL doesn't end there. But this goal line clearance with her head is very, very impressive. And shout out to Balumu, who has had a very impressive month since the United game, specifically the 0-0. Rita Guarino has clearly brought out the best in Ines Balumu. I just said Balunu, but Balumu, she is really, really good. And I mean, look, Guarino's side is hard to break down. It is calculable. We did say this when she came into the league, that she would make a miserly back four. Surprisingly, she's done it with relatively the same players. She's brought in one of her own in Cascarino, who has been fantastic for West Ham. But I mean, they just look hard. They look hard to break down. They look like a team that are holding their form and then breaking away and then utilizing, similar to last year. This is the remnants of the Rianne Skinner ball, which is the individual brilliance of players to get them over the line in the latter stages of the game. So that Uwcl strike will go down as one of the goals of the season. That is so perfect. There's just something so perfect about watching that goal. I don't know how to describe that, like chip, finesse, kind of combined, like it's one of those strikes you see, like I was thinking like Leah Volti, Fram Kirby, like it's a player who's 35 takes that shot.
Kim Little.
Yeah, Kim Little takes that shot and you're just like, why? How has she tried that? What is she doing? But Riko Ueki is not 35. She's 26 doing things that are incredibly mature. That strike was amazing. And then the header backwards to super sub Puibel, who gets her first WSL goal for West Ham, securing the 3 points, eyeing up higher places. I can't believe we were talking about West Ham at the start of this season as bottom of the table with Leicester, and now there's a potential. I mean, look, if we've mentally checked out, I mean, I saw Bunny and Jade Rose sharing many a glass on their story. So West Ham are coming up against a drunk Manchester City. Yeah, that City treble, treble City with Jackie G post a night out on the town, but they could potentially win this game. And if Everton lose to you, which is very, very likely, and Villa lose to you on the last game of the season, there is a chance that West Ham end up closer to my prediction of where I thought they would be. Not in any way to my credit, because I thought it would be Martinez doing this kind of thing, but ultimately this West Ham side, since the introduction of Rita Guarino, have been incredibly impressive.
I'm kind of hoping that Liverpool can meet up to my expectation. They can come to ninth as well. But look, in the battle of the two white European women that look very, very similar, Villa were atrocious in this game. And I think that you can say that, taking into consideration that Villa had a pretty decent first half, right? Like this is probably the most disappointing loss. And that's saying something, because Villa.
What about the 7-3?
Yeah, I was just about to say Villa have lost terribly in previous rounds, but they've lost to all bottom four teams except Leicester, who they actually drew to earlier this season. So they've missed points or they've dropped points to all the bottom four teams. And this is why
they drew to Leicester and they drew to you.
The equivalency of Leicester and Arsenal. Yes.
Arroyo ball is really just like roll a D20 and see what you land on. And when they roll the dice against you, they got a 19. And when they roll the dice against any side that's worse than them, they get like a 6. And you're just like, why? Like, how is this the same manager? How is this the same players? But they need a striker. Oh my
I
God,
was
they
just
need
about
a
to say it's so
striker.
disappointing because they have class players in that side. Taking away my infatuation of Jen and Nysonga,
Oh,
like
my infatuation of Lynn Vilms. Like
yes,
their
and that's who
flanks
I,
are
yes,
great.
exactly.
Yeah.
Vilms, I'm thinking Salmon is she's a
Yeah.
pretty decent player. I'm thinking Lucy Kendall. I mean, they have one
Yeah.
of England's up and coming midfielders in their
Yeah.
side, and
Who Serena believes to be one of
yes,
the players who can potentially replace the big three in the middle. But
and
yeah, it's an
Kirsty
unbelievable
Hansen. I
team.
mean, Kirsty Hansen has reached double figures. She reached
Yeah.
12 goals this season in a side that
Man,
doesn't
you know who
score
they're
many
missing. You
goals.
know who they're missing. It's Rachel
Bunny
Daly.
Shaw.
It's
Yes,
obviously Rachel
yes.
Daly.
The
Yeah.
fact that I will bring up
Yeah.
what season, Ben? What season will I
What?
bring up?
22, 23,
It's
22,
it's
23.
it's the fact that
Yes.
we keep matching or we keep trying to find that level of Villa again, and we they have the players to do it. I actually think the 22-23 side, it doesn't have as many good players in their base or in their spine as they do now. I
No.
think it's about getting around this manager, getting around a system of play where they can maintain a level of consistency throughout the season.
100%. And I think it'll be on everyone's radar, especially with how miserly the defenses are getting closer to the end of the season. Bar Villa and that purple patch of like the purple patch of pain. It's like
The purple patch of despair and
yeah.
sadness.
The purple patch of how many goals are we scoring against Villa this week? I mean, getting 7 put past you by Tottenham might be the biggest indictment of the season. But we'll get to our Benchwarmers like award show at the end of the year for like the worst games and the worst moments. I'm coming for you, Balumu. Don't worry. But that is all we have for the WSL this week, and that is all we have for part 1 of this podcast.